This is Shaun Sport in podcast form.
All right, the V8's hit the mountain. You can't believe it. It's here again. Bathurst 1000th. The drivers will be on the track today, pumping it out. And you know what? There's no better time of the year to speak to Mark Skaife, the legend himself. Good morning, Skaife.
Good morning, guys.
Talking to you, Skaife, is the equivalent of dusting off Mariah Carey ahead of Christmas. Do you know what I mean? Because you think Bathurst, you think Skaife.
You're out of control, Matt. I've never even heard that. That's very good.
It's like they thaw you out and wheel you out. There he is, ready to go.
I love it. And you know what? The crowd would have been going mental yesterday, Skaife, when you were in the heart of Bathurst, in the town centre itself. For the very first time, all the drivers, Nate, drove through the middle of the town.
A parade.
For all the,
we love a parade.
A parade, yeah, Skaife.
Well, we've never done that before. So we've always done a driver parade and stuff in through town in a Ford or a Holden or whatever you're in. But to drive the cars into town, so we've got this concept called Track to Town. So we drove the cars from Bathurst, from Mount Panorama, up into town, parked in the main sort of centre of town and did this big street party. We had thousands of people there. It was fantastic.
Everyone got car parking fines, Nathan.
Fantastic. So it's exactly like Perth. Hey,
Well, let's have the local council make it quick, guys. That's what you got to do.
There are certain towns around the world. So we've got Roswell, right? That's synonymous with aliens.
Yes.
Yeah. And then you've got Tamworth, synonymous with country music.
Yes.
And then you've got Bathurst, synonymous with racing. I've never been there. Is every second cafe like a racing car cafe and stuff like that?
Yeah, what happens the rest of the year?
What is it?
It's actually a really cool town. They've big university here. It's actually one of Australia's best media journalist universities, Charles Sturt. It's got a lot of infrastructure. It's a really wealthy sort of agricultural town. It's the first inland European town across the Great Dividing Range. So it's got a lot of history. It's a really cool town. And then when you come and see the local architecture and all the stuff, and then when we turn it into a racing parade, it goes completely mental over the weekend. It's great. It's fantastic.
So there's no Holden versus Ford cafe or anything there?
Well, not really, but there is still a lot of heritage stuff. I mean, in the street party last night, everyone had a HRT, a Holden racing team jacket, and a lot of Ford jackets and stuff. So there's a lot of people that have been coming here. The annual pilgrimage to Bathurst is massive. And
Surely there's a bar called the Checkered Flag.
There has to be something there. And if not, why aren't we opening a business? I think they're too close to it.
That's funny. The Checkered Flag Hotel. That's great.
Oh, it just works, doesn't it? But there's been a lot of change, actually, Skaife, that's coming up, and Toyota's going to join the ranks very shortly. But in the meantime, for the race that's happening over the weekend, we'll get to see the primary driver take up the order, first cab off the rank. Yeah, look,
and I think that's the right thing to do, to be honest, guys. The main driver, Australians. This is a Stop the Nation Day in Australian sport. Your TV's on most of the day. You definitely don't miss the start. And to have our lead drivers, the people that know the superstars of our game, in the cars at the start. I mean, we don't go to the AFL Grand Final and watch the reserve grades come on at the start, right? So you've got to end up having the real impetus, the real stars of our game at the start. And then what happens after that, strategically, is going to be really interesting because the co-driver must do 54 laps, 1/3 of the race.
Yeah, right.
Oh. So what will end up happening is the lead drivers will start, and then you've got to find a way to get those 54 laps done so that then the lead driver can get back in and sprint home. Yeah. So there's going to be a lot of thinking on your feet, a lot of strategy applied. Minimal mistakes wins this race, so it's a tough day.
So do they just jump out at the traffic lights? People do swapsies?
Yes, that's how it works. That sounds to me like there's going to be a lot of guys in the pits with clipboards and things, marking down numbers and
you'd have to keep an eye on it.
Yeah,
there will be a lot of propeller heads doing their very best work. There's no doubt about that.
Do you have to be good at maths to be a driver? A good driver?
You have to be good at math to be a good engineer. The engineers will be a big part of Sunday's race and a big part of the whole weekend because it's such a team effort. The preparation of the cars, the way that you get through all of the practice without making a mistake, and then obviously qualifying on Saturday afternoon for the top 10 shootout is massive. So there's a lot of elements to the weekend, and by the time you get to Sunday, you've just got to have, as I said, your best people on their game on the day and minimise the mistakes.
Now, Skaife, you were talking about the co-driver doing 1/3 of the race. Now, back in 2010, when you took it out with Craig Lowndes, did you do 1/3 of the race? And can you tell everybody what the injury was that took you out?
Yeah, I did a third of the race, so I had to obviously meet the
criteria,
rules and regulations and all that stuff that ends up as part of the game. But what I did, about 2 laps before the finish of my stint, I fired down the inside of a lap car and turned the wheel into the dipper, and it popped my a rib out. So I seriously I could not breathe. And I got out and I said to the guys, I don't know whether I can get back in. Anyway, I had this mad physician bloke who then tried to pop my rib back in. I reckon that made it worse. So I ended up saying, guys, Lowndes going to have to finish this. So he did 3 stints and we ended up being lucky enough to win it. So it was a big day for Craig after that.
I didn't know that could happen. Are people's ribs popping out left, right and centre? What's the deal?
Yeah, it's like it happens in your back, basically. So I used to be a chiro Skaife, so I know how painful it can be. I've seen a lot of people with this condition.
Yeah, but it happens. Does that happen often?
Yeah, relatively often.
Skaife?
When you're going through the dipper?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, well, it's never happened to me before or after, but when it did happen, it was like someone sort of it had
like
been such severe pain. I couldn't breathe. It's just a knife in the back, exactly.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, like, if you hurt your foot, you can just not walk, but you have to keep breathing.
Yeah,
it's fairly critical.
It is fundamental. It is fundamental. Yeah.
Hey, Skaife, we know historically the weather plays a very big part in Bathurst. What is the forecast for Sunday?
So pretty nice leading into the weekend. So today's really beautiful, not a cloud in the sky, beautiful conditions. And the typical Bathurst scenario is there's a 70% chance of 5 to 10 mil on Sunday.
Yeah,
that's
right.
the current.
Makes it a bit greasy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It does, and that then makes it really hard because when it rains around here, it's a wild racetrack.
Are people still like jumping in the night before and burying their booze?
Allegedly.
That happens about 3 or 4 months early. They come up and
and then it's like a treasure hunt because no one can remember where it was.
It's a magical time.
We can't wait for the coverage. And by the way, if you haven't seen it before, get on board because I think you guys in the supercar industry do the best commentary and give you a great insight of what goes on during the race itself. It's just phenomenal. Good luck. And can you just give us a winner for the event, please?
I'm going to put my money on Chaz Mostert and Lee Holdsworth. The last time they were together, they won. They've been getting faster and faster and faster through the course of the year with Chaz and that team, and they've got to win the race to keep the championship alive. So I've got Mostert as the favourite.
Good on you, Mark Skaife, everyone.
Thanks,
mate.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
See you, buddy.
Bye.
Have a great weekend.
Shaun Sport in podcast form.
Well, if you're watching Fox Footy, you'll be able to cover all the AFL trade period which is going on at the moment, and we've got one of the absolute superstars on Fox Footy, and he's a champion of the game. And guess what? Even better, we get to see him on FaceTime right now.
We only demand to speak to the attractive people on FaceTime.
Yes, that's right.
Brad Johnson, good morning.
The number one team in the country.
Talk us up.
Hey, Jono, so much happening on the trade tape. No, there's nothing happening. Can you make something up? Have you got any breaking news for us?
I wish I did. I wish I could drop something on Bailey Smith and what he's doing with the Cats, or Jake Stringer and the GWS Giants, and there's some talk around that. But it's it kind of always works out this way, which the clubs they do a couple of early trades, of course. We know some of the easy ones that will happen. And then we have 2 days of just absolutely nothing. There's all just speculation and pretty much donuts going on, and then all of a sudden it explodes, and we get to that last few days of excitement. So, look, it's quiet on the trade front, but I'm sure within the next couple of days, in particular today, things have to start going. Clubs have to make deals, otherwise, it just loses the momentum and all the hype that surrounds it in the early stages.
But we're talking about when there are deals being made and all that sort of stuff, and when someone flies into town and they meet with people and they're spotted at a restaurant. And we're going, why don't they just hire an Airbnb in the suburbs?
Yes. They should be like people that have won the Bachelor,
covert,
and they have to keep it under wraps. They should be putting on fake moustaches and going in blacked out cars.
People are literally having affairs as we speak around the world, and no one is finding out.
Why do they always go to public places?
What is it? Do they want to be found out, Brad?
Honestly, I asked the same question. Surely it's not that hard to fly into a state and privately go sit somewhere.
You think?
Like drive out to Kalamunda and sit on the side of the road somewhere in a car. Like, I don't get it.
Or both meet like somewhere where nobody cares about it, like Sydney. You know what I mean?
But you know what? I think part of it is deliberate as well, because it's the player maybe wanting a little bit more publicity for the whole contract negotiation and maybe trying to get a couple of extra zeros on the end of there.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
And maybe a move or something like that. But that does amaze me. It's amazing how people find out, and there's always loose lips in footy clubs. Everything gets out.
Hey, Jono, you did mention Bailey Smith earlier on, which he plays for your former team, the Western Bulldogs. Is it true that he modelled his physique on your body?
Well, Sean, you don't have to ask the question. Of course,
what a ridiculous question. It's obvious.
And Brad's sitting with his shirt off. We can see.
This is you, Shawnee, leading in. Want a picture of yourself shown online, isn't it? Because we all know you had the long flowing locks when you were younger, and you had the good rig happening and all of that. He's a good looking rooster, Bailey Smith, that's for sure, and he's done a lot of work, and I kind of hope disappointed that he's not playing in the number 6 of the Dogs, of course, but ultimately if he gets back to playing good footy, that's all I really want to see. He's a good young man, and he's committed to his fitness and his footy. He just needs a bit of luck now to get going.
Look, we know in general, like, wags are all stunning, right? So, but isn't it a real down on the luck thing for there's a girl that's going to get Bailey Smith, right?
Yeah.
And then there's a girl that's going to get one of the messy-headed footballers.
And
she's probably going to be she'll probably be just as hot as the Bailey Smith girl, but she gets that one.
She's in the shade of him.
God, that must be upsetting, Brad.
I can't answer that, unfortunately.
Well, you guys would have seen people in your team, right? Because you know what people look like. There's
we know what we look like.
Yeah. And then sometimes someone will walk in with this girl, and you're going, "Come on, not in a million years, unless you're a footballer, would you have her?" And
we played the Western Bulldogs, guys. From the Western Suburbs of Melbourne, it's a different tale.
Hey, on that, Jono, the fact that there are animal welfare organisations suggesting that the Bulldogs should change their mascot, is that not the maddest thing you've ever heard? How did you feel about that?
Well, when I was actually told this at a function, I couldn't believe it. Doug Hawkins, of all people, was telling me that this was happening, and he heard the news. He actually got a phone call to try and get a comment about it. I couldn't believe it, because the amount of sporting teams around the globe that the Bulldogs, have mascots as a Bulldog. So it's just one of those things. I'm not sure it'll go too far. I don't think the club's going to jump at that.
No, absolutely not. Jono, there's a couple of big trades from what we're seeing in the West that need to be done, and that's Tom Barras to go to Hawthorn, and there's something holding that up. And, of course, Fremantle with Shea Bolton trying to get him over. He's still got a contract with Richmond. They've offered a deal so far. What needs to happen for those deals to get done, and where do you see Fremantle and West Coast with getting those extra players in this season?
Oh, look, it's around what draft picks they get offered back the other way that will help secure these deals, and that's why it's taking a little bit longer, I think, because they're actually class players and they're good players in the competition. So with a bit of X factor, and so that's why it's a bit more difficult, I think, and delays are happening because they want to get the best deal they can for the player, the X factor player that they're losing. So that's why it takes a little bit longer. But from a West Coast point of view, it's sort of good that in some ways Andrew McCoulter's being able to bring, potentially 3 experienced players with him already. So that just adds a bit of depth to the lineup, and especially Liam Baker, if that deal gets done as well, then that's an excellent one for West Coast, and he's captain material. You know what I mean? So you bring a leader straight into the organisation, and Fremantle for me aren't too far away. Shaun, I don't know your thoughts on this, but their backline's strong, their midfield's very strong, of course, and with the growth of Josh Tracy this year, their forward line's starting to take a bit of shape. So you add Bolton into that, and the spark he can provide down forward with Walters coming towards the end of his career, then I don't know, they kind of reek of a bit of a top 4 team. I don't know whether, how you feel on this, and whether Justin Longmuir needs to change his game style a little bit just to get a bit more flow with some of the exciting players that he may have at his disposal in his lineup. But they're a top 4 team on paper. It's whether they can execute now.
Yeah, there's 2 issues that Justin has. Number one, when they get someone like Shea Bolton into the team, I think that certainly being able to score is not going to be much of an issue. The second thing is whenever I say that they're never going to miss the finals, which I did this year.
Sean jinxed them. He said he couldn't see a way that they wouldn't finish top two.
Yeah.
I think he said, Sean.
Sean's got a superpower, right? And he doesn't know how to control it, and it's bloody simple.
He's
If Sean says someone's going to win,
if he makes a bold call,
if Sean says something's going to win, then it loses. And he does, and even though it's directly just the opposite of what he says, he still doesn't know how to work it.
Yeah.
So he literally puts the kibosh on his own team all throughout the season.
He also said the Eagles, he couldn't see a way they couldn't finish last, and then they finished third last.
I was pretty close.
We love your work, Jono. Thanks so much.
I've got one more question, though,
No,
Jono.
Amy's wrapping you up. She's furious at you now.
Okay. There is rumours that you're coming over to replace Bob Murphy. Brad Weir's taking you out for dinner.
He's replacing you, Sean.
Yeah.
I had dinner with Brad last night. Yes, here in Melbourne. He loves to mention every time we catch up, Sean. So he'll be happy with that. No,
was it dinner at an Airbnb in a suburb far away? Or
funny enough, no one knew about it.
We love your work, Jono. Thanks for joining us this morning. It's lovely to see your beautiful face.
it's so handsome.
Thanks, guys.
Shaun Sport is a Nova podcast. For more great comedy shows like this, head to novapodcast.com.au.